in the region.
Also on the show today, in a dramatic display of military partnership, Iran and Russia are launching a joint naval exercise in the Caspian Sea today. The U.S. will surely be watching these developments keenly. We'll get you the latest on that story as well. Let's begin with the headlines.
Israeli forces opened fire on crowds of Palestinians trying to collect humanitarian aid in Gaza, killing 93 and wounding dozens of others.
Dozens of Palestinians demonstrate in the West Bank city of Ramallah, demanding the world take urgent action to bring humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip after the outbreak of famine there.
Syrian internal security forces block roads leading to Sweida to prevent tribal and Bedouin forces from advancing towards the city and to uphold the ceasefire as calm returns to the province after a week of sectarian clashes.
Israeli forces opened fire on crowds of Palestinians trying to collect humanitarian aid in Gaza, killing 93 and wounding dozens of others.
Iran says it will hold nuclear talks with UK, France and Germany in Istanbul on Friday. The announcement follows warnings by the European powers that failure to resume negotiations will lead to international sanctions being reimposed on Tehran.
Monsoon session of Indian Parliament begins today, with the government expressing its readiness to discuss all important issues raised by opposition, including Operation Sindoor.
Ship catches fire off the coast of Indonesia, forcing passengers to jump into the water to save themselves. 284 managed to escape the blaze, 5 dead in the tragic incident.
Ecuadorian drug trafficker Adolfo Macias extradited to the United States a month after being recaptured following a 2024 escape from a maximum security prison.
US President Trump refutes a Wall Street Journal report suggesting Treasury Secretary Bessent talked him out of firing Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, says people don't explain to me, I explain to them.
Heavy rain in Washington flood streets, caused drainage systems and canals to overflow, filling low-lying areas with several feet of standing water.
How is this even possible?
The GT World Cup, the World Challenge Sprint Cup in Italy is interrupted by a dramatic car fire. The driver escapes unhurt as McLaren races to the finish line to end the 9-year drought.
We begin in West Asia. Calm has returned to the province of Sweida after a devastating week of sectarian violence in Syria.
The fighting between Druze fighters and rival Bedouin groups left over 1,000 people dead. Now, government troops have been deployed at key positions across the Druze majority province to enforce the ceasefire.
Anyone on Syrian soil from the south to the northeastern regions will be considered a legitimate target if they collaborate with our enemies or maintain ties to foreign agendas.
We are committed to the Syrian government's ceasefire decision, but we will remain in this location and will break the ceasefire if the Druze violate the agreement.
Now this as dozens of Bedouin fighters drove towards the village of Al-Mazra in the outskirts of Sweida. Trucks were seen bringing aid to them.
The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights puts the death toll at over 1,120 people, with hundreds of civilians and fighters on both sides killed, including dozens allegedly executed in cold blood.
At Sweida's main hospital, the aftermath is grim. The morgue is full. Medics say bodies now lie on the ground outside the facility and supplies are running dangerously low.
There are at least 400 bodies of martyrs in the hospital who were killed in the recent violence, in addition to the bodies still inside homes that are being brought to the hospital till now, and there are bodies already buried without being transferred to the hospital.
The United Nations reports that over 130,000 people have been displaced across Sweida. The displaced people described the brutality of clashes in their neighborhoods.
We left there due to a bombing. People were killed there, but we could not reach them. They killed a lot. They did a lot. They did everything. They are not afraid of God. We left because we were scared for ourselves, our children, and our girls. You can see by your eyes how is the situation here. Now there is no water. If I want to ambulate and pray, I cannot. If I want to drink, there is not water. The situation is bad, but thank God for everything.
For now, the guns have fallen silent, but the scars of the conflict remain.
Staying on with West Asia, Gaza's civil defense agency said that Israeli forces opened fire on crowds of Palestinians trying to collect humanitarian aid.
In the war-torn Palestinian territory, there have been 93 people that have been killed and dozens have been wounded in the incident. The agency reports that 80 people were killed as truckloads of aid arrived in the north. 9 others were reported shot near an aid point close to Rafah in the south, where dozens lost their lives just 24 hours earlier, while 4 people were killed in the south near another aid site in Khan Yunis.
The UN World Food Programme said that its 25-truck convoy carrying food aid encountered massive crowds of hungry civilians which came under gunfire near the Gaza city. Soon after, it crossed from Israel and cleared checkpoints. The United Nations said that civilians were starving and needed an urgent influx of food and medical supplies.
Now this comes as large crowds of displaced Palestinians were seen receiving a few ladles of soup in Gaza's Nusayrat camp in the center of the strip as health officials warned of a growing hunger crisis. The Gaza Health Ministry said that at least 71 children have died of malnutrition during the war and 60,000 others were suffering from symptoms of malnutrition. Later on Sunday, it said 18 people have died of hunger in the past 24 hours. Israel has rejected accusations that it is obstructing aid deliveries to Gaza, attributing the shortages to alleged theft by Hamas, a claim that the group denies.
Palestinians were seen carrying their belongings and fleeing west of Deir al-Balah after the Israeli military told residents and displaced people to move south immediately.
Israeli military's Arabic language spokesperson Avichai Adri had earlier warned that the people in the area, saying that Israel was expanding its activities against Hamas around Deir al-Balah, where it has not operated before.
They threw leaflets at us and we don't know where we are going and we don't have shelter or anything, and the place we were sitting in doesn't cause any harm to anyone. What is happening is pressure on us and we are walking and we don't know where we are going.
Meanwhile, activists on board the Freedom Flotilla coalition ship Handala have set sail from southern Italy for Gaza in what they say is an attempt to break a long-standing Israeli blockade and deliver humanitarian aid. The FCC has said that it aims to end the blockade of Gaza by sailing vessels stocked with aid to the enclave.
Several Freedom Flotilla vessels have attempted to break the blockade in the past. More recently, a yacht organized by the coalition with several high-profile activists on board, including Greta Thunberg, was seized by the Israeli Navy, with Thunberg later deported by the Israeli authorities.
In another incident in the UK, a cast member at the Royal Opera House in London unfurled a Palestinian flag on stage. Now, the video, which went viral on social media, showed a cast member tussling with a person for the Palestinian flag during the curtain call of Il Trovatore. A spokesperson for the Royal Ballet and Opera called the act inappropriate, saying that the display of the flag was an unauthorized action by the artist.
A massive fire broke out at Iran's largest and oldest oil refinery during maintenance work at the Abadan facility.
And this left one worker dead and several were injured. Emergency teams were quick to take stock of the situation, bringing the blaze under control within 2 hours.
Videos of the incident show large flames and plumes of dark smoke rising from the refinery. As per the Iranian oil ministry, a leaking pump in an under-repair unit sparked the blaze. No indication of sabotage or foul play has emerged. Operations at the unit now remain unaffected.
The Abadan refinery is situated roughly 670 kilometers southwest of Tehran in Iran's southwestern Khuzestan province. Operational since 1912, it accounts for around 25% of national fuel production. Its refining capacity exceeds 5.2 million barrels per day. And in a dramatic display of military partnership, Iran and Russia, they are launching a joint naval exercise in the Caspian Sea today.
Now, the 3-day maritime rescue and relief drill named Casterex 2025 will be hosted by the Iranian Navy's Northern Fleet with the theme Together for a Safe and Secure Caspian Sea. Naval personnel from the Iranian Navy, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Navy, Iran's Law Enforcement Command, and the Russian Navy will be taking part alongside observers from several Caspian Sea littoral states.
Through Casterex 2025, both countries aim to strengthen regional maritime safety, build trust among Caspian neighbors, and improve interoperability between their naval forces. The drill underscores Iran and Russia's continued efforts to deepen military cooperation in this strategically vital region. And a senior aide to U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has quit the Pentagon.
This is also marking the 6th official to exit in Hegseth's first 6 months at the Department of Defense. The aide, Justin Fulcher, was appointed to the post in late April.
Now, in a text message to the Washington Post, Fulcher claimed that his departure was perfectly amicable, contradicting reports which suggested that he was fired. However, the Pentagon issued a statement saying that Fulcher was not fired, adding that he was a great guy.
Now, ahead of his appointment in April, Fulcher was a member of Elon Musk's Doge. Apparently, Fulcher has stormed out of a meeting with the Pentagon's Doge team's lead and sought help from Hexet's front office. Reports also suggest that Fulcher's workplace had recently been relocated outside of Hexet's main office to a desk down the hall.
Now, other members of Hexet's team who have departed in his first 6 months include Dan Caldwell, Colin Carroll and Darren Selnick. The three officials who were fired in April, Casper, who left his role voluntarily for a job in the private sector, and John Ulliott, who served for about 5 months as the Pentagon's top spokesperson.
Our nations, as you know,
Now, a high-stakes meet between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping might be on the cards soon.
And according to the Chinese media, reports in the Chinese media suggest that Trump could visit China ahead of the summit or meet Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. While Xi Jinping's attendance has been reported in South Korean media, Trump's participation has not yet been confirmed.
Earlier this month, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met for the first time in person. In a phone call last month, President Xi invited Trump and his wife to visit China, an invitation that Trump reciprocated.
Since returning to the White House in January, Trump has played a hardball with China, especially on the tariff front, threatening tariffs up to 145% on Beijing. But behind the scenes, both countries have worked to stabilize relations, agreeing on a preliminary trade deal to ease tensions over rare earth exports and technology controls.
But despite common desire of diplomacy, Taiwan remains the point of discomfort for Beijing, with U.S. ramping up its military assets and arming allies in the Indo-Pacific.
Boeing is once again facing the question of safety. A Delta Boeing 767 aircraft engine caught fire mid-air soon after takeoff.
Well, luckily, all the passengers of the plane landed safely. Delta Boeing 767 took off from Los Angeles and was bound for Atlanta. But shortly after the takeoff, pilots detected signs of a fire in the aircraft's left engine, prompting emergency landing back at the Los Angeles airport.
Whoa, hang on. That's not good. That's not good, guys. I'm turning up ATC, I don't hear anything.
Footage that has surfaced shows flames erupting from the left engine as the aircraft turned back over southern Los Angeles. In the video, the jet is seen flying steadily while a fireball blazes beneath one wing. As the aircraft descended, the fire appeared to subside. The landing gear deployed as expected, and the plane touched down safely with the engine no longer visibly burning.
A day earlier, another Boeing jet made emergency landing due to a technical glitch in India. An Air India Express flight to Phuket returned to Hyderabad shortly after the takeoff. A Boeing 737 MAX 8 remained airborne just for 16 minutes before returning to Hyderabad.
And just last week, at least 6 Air India international flights were cancelled within 24 hours. The reasons included technical glitches and aircraft unavailability. 6 among the cancelled flights were scheduled to be operated by Boeing 787-8 Dreamliners, which is the same passenger mode involved in the Ahmedabad crash on the 12th of June.
Now, frequent cancellations, emergency landings, and crash that killed 260 passengers in Ahmedabad. The lingering doubt over Boeing's planes may not vanish quickly. The airplane brand that was once known for its safety standards is turning into a scare in the sky. Now, superbugs could cost millions of lives and trillions in losses by 2050.
A global health disaster is looming and the clock is ticking. A new UK-funded study now warns that superbugs could cause millions of more deaths each year and cost the world nearly $2 trillion annually by 2050. The threat is antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, when bacteria no longer responds to antibiotics.
Now, the research spanning 122 countries predicts annual GDP losses of $1.7 trillion, with China, the US, Europe, and the UK among the worst hit. Deaths could rise by 60%, with the US losing 1.3 million people a year and the UK over 180,000, all due to drug-resistant infections.
Healthcare systems could buckle under pressure, more hospital stays, costlier treatments, and a global bill of $176 billion a year. Despite this, major aid cuts are underway. The UK, US, and EU have slashed funding for AMR programs, a move experts say could accelerate the crisis.
But the study also offers a way out. Investing in new drugs, global access to treatment, and awareness can save lives and boost economies. With urgent action, the US can gain over $150 billion a year and the UK around £9 billion. The bottom line is that ignore superbugs and pay the price in lives and GDP. Well, moving on, South Korea is mounting an all-out recovery operation after once-in-a-century storms have battered the nation for 5 consecutive days.
Relentless rainfall has triggered catastrophic floods, claiming 17 lives. Now, rescue operations are underway in full swing across the flood-hit areas. These are some of the images that you will now be seeing from the resort town of Gapyeong, where rescue teams used a zip line to pull one person to safety across a surging river, and helicopters have been deployed to airlift residents stranded in flooded waters.
Meanwhile, in Cheonan near Seoul, a river rose to dangerous levels and started overflowing. Water from the flooding river made its way onto the roads, posing danger for moving cars.
According to a ministry report, nearly 3,840 people have been evacuated from their homes. Authorities have lifted heavy rain alerts across the country after the rainfall stopped. According to the government weather forecaster, a heat wave is expected to follow.
President Lee Jae-myung has ordered that the worst-hit areas to be declared as special disaster zones, and the government has launched a multi-agency recovery effort.
Southern regions have received up to somewhere close to 600 to 800 millimeters of rain since the 16th of July. Nearly 10,000 people have left their homes since the downpour began. The storm has temporarily cut power to more than 41,000 households. Over 2,000 public buildings have been damaged across the country, with reports of damage to farmlands and the deaths of livestock.
Back in 2022, South Korea endured record-breaking rains and flooding that killed at least 11 people.
Typhoon Wifa has made landfall in the coast of China's Guangdong province.
And Hong Kong has significantly downgraded storm warnings to level 3 as the typhoon skirts away towards coastal China.
Visuals show trees being uprooted and scaffoldings giving way, with heavy rain pounding and gusts of wind swaying as the typhoon made its landfall. China's Central Meteorological Bureau has now issued an orange alert for the typhoon with forecasts of heavy rainfall.
Nearly 280,000 people in Guangdong have now been relocated as southern coastal China steps up precautionary measures. All water construction operations under the Guangzhou Maritime Jurisdiction have been halted, and all personnel working for offshore south of the Humen Bridge have been evacuated.
Nansha district, the southernmost area of Guangzhou, was one of the first places to be affected by Wifa. Currently, all coastal attractions and facilities in Nansha are shut. Residents in low-lying areas have been evacuated. The main waterway at the Pearl River estuary is under temporary traffic control. Now, the Guangzhou Maritime Bureau has executed access restriction to the sea route.
Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, torrential rains left a trail of destruction. The visuals that you see on your screens is of the strong winds that has uprooted trees in Hong Kong. Lives were thrown out of gear with schools shut and public transportation suspended. The government said it had received more than 450 reports of fallen trees, with 250 people seeking shelter in government-run shelters.
Flight services are, however, now set to resume as storm seeps past Hong Kong. Earlier in the day, at least 500 flights were cancelled, while 400 flights were forced to reschedule.
Meanwhile, in the Philippines, we find intensified seasonal rains, leaving one villager dead in the northern Cagayan province. More than 370,000 people have been impacted due to the typhoon. Moving on, Elon Musk's humanoid robot just got a lot more human.
And Tesla's Optimus, first seen folding laundry and playing rock, paper, scissors, has now learned a new party trick: serving popcorn. In a video shared on X, the robot is seen filling a bag of popcorn without spilling a single kernel, then handing it over with a thumbs up and a wave.
Ready to serve you some popcorn or answer any questions.
Awesome, thank you very much. Hey Optimus, where are you?
According to Grok, the location was the soft opening of the Tesla diner and supercharger station on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood.
Musk, meanwhile, had a simple message that this will become normal in a few years. But Tesla's robotics journey hasn't been smooth. From its debut in 2021 to a prototype in 2022 and a new timeline for commercial sales in 2026, Optimus is still a work in progress. At Tesla's We Robot event last year, most demos were still remote controlled, proving full autonomy isn't here yet. But popcorn or not, Optimus is getting closer to Musk's vision, where robots could soon mow your lawn, walk your dog, or even babysit the kids.
Hey Optimus, where are you?
I'm behind the counter.
All right, with that, we're calling for a short break now. On the other side of World Day, we continue with more reports. We set off with Iran, that is set to sit down with France, Britain, and Germany for crucial nuclear talks in Istanbul on 25th of July. The meeting comes after warnings from Britain, France, and Germany on potential international sanctions.
Also on the other side, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's upcoming hearing in his graft trial has been postponed after the premier came down with food poisoning over the weekend. This and a lot more lined up for you. Don't go anywhere. World DNA continues after this short break.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Let's start with the headlines at this hour.
Monsoon session of Indian Parliament begins today, with the government expressing its readiness to discuss all important issues raised by opposition, including Operation Sindoor.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's scheduled testimony in his graft trial postponed as his office informs that he is suffering from food poisoning and will be resting at home for the next 2 to 3 days on directions of the doctor.
Syrian internal security forces block roads leading to Sweida to prevent tribal and Bedouin forces advancing towards the city and to uphold a ceasefire, as calm returns to the province after a week of sectarian clashes.
Iran says it will hold nuclear talks with the UK, France and Germany in Istanbul on Friday. The announcement follows warnings by the European powers that failure to resume negotiations will lead to international sanctions being reimposed on Tehran.
Ecuadorian drug trafficker Adolfo Macias extradited to the United States a month after being recaptured following a 2024 escape from maximum security prison.
US President Donald Trump refutes Wall Street Journal report suggesting Treasury Secretary Bessent talked him out of firing Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Says people don't explain to me, I explain to them.
Heavy rain in Washington floods streets, caused drainage systems and canals to overflow, filling low-lying areas with several feet of standing water.
Gold remains flat at $3,348 an ounce as market uncertainty lingers. Investors eye geopolitical tensions and inflation concerns, keeping the precious metal in focus.
GT World Challenge Sprint Cup in Italy is interrupted by a dramatic car fire. The driver escapes unhurt as McLaren races to the finish line to end 9-year drought.
And Iran is set to sit down with Britain, France and Germany for crucial nuclear talks in Istanbul on the 25th of July.
Now, this meeting follows warnings from Britain, France and Germany that Iran resume nuclear talks or face the reimposition of international sanctions. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Bagheri has confirmed that Deputy Foreign Ministers Kazem Garibabdi and Majid Takhtravanchi will represent Iran at the Deputy Foreign Minister level meeting with their European counterparts.
The E3 nations threatened to restore UN sanctions through the snapback mechanism by the end of August if nuclear negotiations do not resume or if they failed to yield results. Before this announcement, the E3 foreign ministers and the European Union's foreign policy chief held their first call with Iran's foreign minister since Israel and the US struck Iranian nuclear facilities a month ago.
Now, despite pressure, Iran maintains that France, Germany and Britain do not have the authority to trigger the snapback mechanism under the 2015 nuclear deal that originally lifted sanctions in exchange for curbs on Iran's nuclear program. Iran's foreign minister conveyed this position in a letter to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas and the President of the UN Security Council.
Earlier, Tehran and Washington held 5 rounds of nuclear talks mediated by Oman. However, negotiations stalled over major issues like uranium enrichment, which Western powers insist must be reduced to minimize risks of weaponization. Iran insists its nuclear program is for civilian purposes.
Moving on, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's upcoming hearing in his graft trial has been postponed.
And the postponement happened after the premier came down with food poisoning over the weekend. An official statement from his office revealed that Netanyahu, who's 75, fell ill overnight and was found to be suffering from intestinal inflammation and dehydration, for which he is receiving intravenous fluids. It added that in accordance with his doctor's instructions, the Israeli Prime Minister will rest at home for the next 3 days.
Netanyahu was scheduled to give a testimony in court on Monday and Tuesday, but asked to postpone the hearings. The request filed with the Jerusalem District Court on his behalf says that the premier will make an effort to testify on Wednesday instead. The state attorney's office agreed to postpone the 2 scheduled hearings after reviewing medical records, but in light of the many hearings that have been cancelled recently, requested that the defendant testify on Wednesday and Thursday of this week.
Netanyahu has denied any wrongdoing, and his supporters have described the long-running trial as politically motivated. In a first case, he and his wife, Sarah, are accused of accepting more than $260,000 worth of luxury goods such as cigars, jewelry and champagne from billionaires in exchange for political favors. In 2 other cases, Netanyahu is accused of attempting to negotiate more favorable coverage from 2 Israeli media outlets. India's monsoon session of Parliament is all set for a stormy start today. Ahead of the session, the government held an all-party meeting to ensure smooth functioning of both the houses of Parliament.
It has asserted that it is ready to discuss Operation Sindoor in the House. The all-party meeting was chaired by Union Minister and Leader of the House in Rajya Sabha, J.P. Nadda, with Kiran Rijiju and MOS Arjun Ram Meghwal representing the government. This monsoon session of the Parliament is expected to be a busy one as multiple bills are listed for discussion and passage.
We are very open to discussion on important issues like Operation Sindoor, related to all the incidents right from the attack in the Pahalgam. These are issues of great national importance. Government is not shying away from discussion. The only thing I'm saying is we will discuss under certain rules, certain procedure with a convention which is there before us. So government will never shy away from discussion unless it is prevented under certain rules or under certain provisions.
However, the crucial Income Tax Bill 2025 will remain at the forefront of the government's legislative agenda.
Now, this was initially introduced in the Lok Sabha during the budget session on February 13th. The monsoon session is scheduled to begin on Monday, that is 21st of July, that is today, and will continue till 21st of August.
Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju said that the all-party meeting turned out to be constructive and representatives from 51 parties were in attendance. Responding to demands raised by the opposition on Operation Sindoor and Trump's claims, Rijiju said the government would address the matter on the floor of the House.
From the opposition, those present at the meeting were Congress leaders Gaurav Gogoi and Jairam Ramesh, NCP MP Supriya Sule and DMK's T.R. Balu, among others. Now, they have demanded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's statement in Parliament on Trump's claim which is the lapses that led to the Pehagam attack and the ongoing special intensive revision process in Bihar. And from India, in a significant breakthrough, Jammu and Kashmir police have arrested a suspect under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act through facial recognition system from Anantnag.
This is the second such arrest following the installation of the AI-based technology. A suspicious individual identified as Munib Mushtaq Sheikh was arrested after the suspect was detected in Anantnag's Ganeshbal through the facial recognition system FRS, which is installed by the J&K police. As per the police statement, upon detection, Munib was immediately taken into custody and shifted to Pahalgam police station for further verification. Police statement also stated that subsequent inquiries revealed accused Munib's involvement in cases registered under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and Explosive Substances Act.
The police also stressed on the importance of facial recognition system and said that swift identification and apprehension of the suspect highlights the effectiveness of advanced surveillance technologies in enhancing security and maintaining law and order. The first arrest through facial recognition system was made when an alleged overground worker was arrested in Anantnag on 19th of June. Jammu and Kashmir authorities have implemented AI-powered surveillance as part of enhanced security measures. The system is equipped with real-time alert capabilities for security forces once a suspect appears within the surveillance camera's range.
A horrifying incident has come to light from East Indian state of Odisha. A 15-year-old girl was allegedly set ablaze by unknown assailants in a brutal act that has left her fighting for her life.
Now, the incident took place in a village of Puri as the girl was reportedly heading to her friend's house to deliver a book. Police says the attackers intercepted her, covered minor's face with a handkerchief to render her unconscious. Following this, the attackers forced her to a nearby river embankment where they allegedly poured petrol and set her on fire.
The girl, who was on oxygen support in AIIMS Bhubaneswar, was referred to the national capital for further treatment. She has been airlifted and brought to AIIMS Delhi. According to the official press release by AIIMS Hospital, the girl has suffered over 75% burn injuries.
A 14-member team of plastic surgeons and burn specialists at AIIMS Delhi is now overseeing her treatment. Police officials have ruled out personal enmity as possible motives based on statements from the girl's family. Special investigation team has been formed to track down the attackers, and as of now, authorities have not identified the perpetrators and they have not made any arrests so far.
The attack has sparked a statewide outrage. Both the BJD and the Congress party have demanded the resignation of Odisha's Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister. Protests have erupted with opposition leaders and student groups clashing with ruling party members, pushing for accountability at the top.
In other global news, Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is scheduled to visit India on September 16th.
And this is according to an official statement released by Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, the ministry has said that the preparations for the visit are currently underway through the detailed itinerary is still being finalized though. Now, this visit will mark Oli's first official trip to India since assuming office for the fourth time in July last year.
Prime Minister Oli selected China as his first destination for an official overseas visit, breaking with the customary tradition of making India the first foreign stop after assuming office.
It has long been a diplomatic tradition for newly appointed Prime Ministers of Nepal to make India their first official foreign visit after taking office. But last year in December, as Jyotsna mentioned earlier, China was their first destination in Oli's term. And at the time, he had indicated that his visit to India would take place when the timing was appropriate.
Earlier this year, Oli and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met on the sidelines of the 6th BIMSTEC summit held in Bangkok. Now, during that meeting, Oli reportedly extended an invitation to Prime Minister Modi to visit Nepal, suggesting that Modi would likely make the trip around November.
Central banks love to cut rates in gradual 25 basis point chunks.
Nobody knows why, and analysts say it does not always make much sense. Now, here's our next report to give more details on that.
Life is full of unwritten rules. Given Britain's semi-invented central banking, it's no surprise that the world of monetary policy also has its fair share of these silent understandings. The biggest of all, the idea that interest rate cuts happen in gradual quarter-point increments, but analysts say it's a rule that is no longer fit for this day and age. In an era where mortgages are very rarely on floating rates and corporate hedging is more commonplace, cutting rates in bite-sized chunks won't always do very much, not very quickly anyway. Take the 2022 interest rate hiking cycle as an example. It was the most aggressive we've seen for decades, yet the average rate on outstanding US mortgage debt increased by a mere 0.7 percentage points from its pandemic low. That's despite rates on new 30-year lending soaring from 3% to a peak of almost 8%. Analysts say monetary policy has become more like controlling an oil tanker, and it means central banks run a much greater risk of ending up behind the curve. If officials decide rates need to go to neutral, one can make a decent case for getting there ASAP. None of this is new, but it's key to understanding how central banks are likely to react through the second half of the year. Last week's inflation surge will support the Bank of England hawks' views of no immediate rate cuts, but the jobless data supports the doves for more immediate rate cuts. The result may be another very gradual 0.25% of rate cut, something we have seen come through since last summer. Analysts say that looks like an awkward compromise. For now, fears about the BOE slipping behind the curve have been allayed by big upward revisions to May's significant drop in payroll numbers. But with employment having fallen in 7 out of the past 8 months, the bank can't take anything for granted. An August rate cut is all but guaranteed. When it comes to the Fed, life is complicated by the very real risk that this summer's inflation figures come in hot. The Fed wants to be quite sure that a one-off tariff increase doesn't morph into a more permanent bout of inflation, and that's still probably true despite another remarkably benign core consumer inflation figure last week. So when the Fed is quite sure that the eye of the storm has passed, it could end up cutting rates fairly swiftly. The ECB is much closer to the end of its easing cycle than the beginning. Unlike the Fed or BOE, ECB rates are already at neutral, neither stimulatory nor restrictive for economic activity. In the week ahead, it is a very quiet time for scheduled US data and events. The proximity to the 30th July Fed meeting means that the central bank has entered its quiet period. So officials are not allowed to comment publicly on the economy and potential monetary policy options. Broadly, the US central bank is expected to stay on the sidelines at that meeting. Business Bureau, WION World is one.
In sports, world number 1 Scottie Scheffler cruises to HSI Maiden British Open title. The American won by 4 shots after a commanding performance at Royal Portrush that once again drew comparisons to the legendary Tiger Woods.
And Scheffler had effectively sealed the title within an hour of teeing off on Sunday. That's how dominant he was. His 4-shot lead quickly grew to 7 and the title was virtually in his kitty. Fans were then left